This video is about cutting through all the BS of not using water when working with acrylics. Using water instead of medium expands the flexibility of acrylics. The painting here, although not specifically talked about in this video, uses paint thinned substantially with water and then sprayed onto the canvas along with the spraying of straight water to get the colors to mingle together and come up with a variety of different colors. During this video, I'm going to show you two high water applications and then test each of them even before they are fully cured. First, let's take a look at what acrylic paint is. There's four main ingredients: acrylic, a clear, high-quality plastic that acts as the binder or glue; the pigment, a colored powder that gives the paint its color; glycol, which is basically antifreeze used to slow the drying; and water. Retarder is mostly made up of glycol used to slow the drying of the paint even further. And it's the water and glycol that give the paint its flow characteristics. The drying process starts with the evaporation of the water. This is when the paint is dry to the touch. It can take about 5 to 30 minutes to complete. The next stage, the glycol evaporates. This is a much slower process and can take 24 to 48 hours to fully cure. On the right side, I've added more water to the mix. This still dries in about the same time, but interestingly, when that's dry, it's exactly the same as what's on the left. This painting uses impasto built up with molding paste. When it was dry, usually overnight, I painted a very light desaturated yellow-orange to all of the rock face and allowed that to dry and cure. With an extremely thinned paint, I allowed this to run down the surface and stain the rock face, even spraying it with water to encourage further running. This is our first test piece using the drip glazing method used in the previous painting. I'm using a heavy body paint that I'm thinning with water directly on the palette and then applying it to a vertical canvas, allowing this to run down the face. Even using a spray bottle to spray water directly onto the canvas. This is sprayed at an angle so as to encourage a little bit more sideways motion. I continue on applying paint and water to the surface, allowing it to run down, even taking the step of splashing some paint directly onto the surface and splashing water directly on the surface, all in the aid of getting more dripping and more interesting texture happening. This next painting shows wet sand and fog. The vertical streaks in the wet sand is achieved by blending one wet paint color into another that is thinned with water only to the point of allowing the paint to flow smoothly. Liquid acrylics are pretty close to this consistency. The horizontal lines through the wet sand and the fog in the background is done with the same moderately thin paint as the vertical blends are, and then thinned and blended with a clean, damp brush shown in this next test piece. This test starts with a pre-painted tree and waterline. Using a 1-inch brush and paint thinned with water to flow smoothly but still opaque, I paint a solid band over the waterline. I clean the brush of all the paint and squeeze it out with my fingers. Don't dry this on a paper towel. We need to add this small amount of water to make the paint blend to transparent. I place the brush half on, half off the wet edge, moving back and forth quickly until the edge starts to blend to transparent. Clean the brush again, squeeze out excess water, and continue to smooth the blend. You will start to need to dry the brush on a paper towel or towel so as not to get too much water on the canvas. You may find this easier to work flat. The more you work it, the more paint you will lift off. Keep at it and you'll take it all off. You can reapply the solid band several times while it's still wet until you get what you're after. Now finally for the test. It is a standard operating procedure in the big public galleries to use a garden hose to clean the paintings after the close of each day. On our test panels that have only just dried to the touch, I'm spraying them first with the rain setting and then the jet setting. And lo and behold, the paint stays on. So what's all this about not using water in acrylics? It's BS, that's what it is. If after all this downwing and testing you still think I might be full of something or other, you can always use a top coat of any clear medium. I use Triart's Final Finish. This will even out the gloss, give you some abrasion protection, and make sure everything is glued down real good like. Throwing in this last test just for the dramatics and the shameless advertising of my 2 books on how to paint with acrylics. Please share this video and end this needless BS. Some canvases may have been hurt during the recording of this video. Please watch the outtake following the credits. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you've learned something, and do try to use water in your acrylic painting. It really does expand the capabilities of a very already capable medium.
And he takes one gentle, swift sweep to the left. Swishes out the brush.
Can you see this?
I can see the hand pulsating up and down, up a little higher. Oh wow, what a gesture. And across he goes again. Are we doing mist? Oh, good. Like she's gonna learn something. And as he sweeps back and forth vigorously, dipping and wiping, dipping and wiping, the mist rises higher and higher into the forest where the trolls live, wiping the brush, grating against the easel, sweeping back and forth with such ecstasy. And then it goes a little higher. The mist is going to reach the top of the trees before we know it. He's making sure the brush is squeaky clean. Back and forth, back and forth. Will it ever end? This is what happens in the middle of the night. The little mist maidens fly across the swamp, flapping their little wings, making the mist rise from the water. He looks back and adores his work.